us are armed with steel and concrete. Computers and electronics barricade our minds. It doesn't change the fact that there exist a lot of strange phenomena, bizarre beyond reason or logic. Most folks just don't see them. That's because we cling to order, to any tiny happiness that comes our way, and we bust our humps to blind ourselves with our desires and our pleasures. There's a world of darkness out there.
Welcome back to Nice, everybody. Monty, how are you doing on this beautiful Sunday evening?
I'm doing great. My new job started last week, so I've been putting in the man hours, and I've rewarded myself by going up to my mom's house this weekend. Got to ride some horses and beat my nephews in Smash Brothers.
Yeah, it's always such a good feeling to punish children at video games when they just don't have the fine motor skills yet. One of life's special pleasures.
I told them that I'm making a belt, and the next time that I see them, I'm going to bring the belt with me, like the world championship belt, and they have to dethrone the king.
Nice. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I just got back from my trip to America, which I think that we're going to talk about maybe on another episode, because I've got much to regale our audience at home with. But today on the podcast, we have got, well, I'll say a character, so a specter that haunts the timeline. Someone who, when we first became mutuals, I had muted for the first 2 weeks because his posts were just too scary. And I'm just going to read the Twitter bio because he puts it into better words than I could ever attempt to. So we've got the esoteric e-boy, tantrianist, Hapaborean, non-dual wielding, adamantine polemicist, and host of the podcast Threshold Saints, Jin the Ninja. Welcome to the program.
Hey, Mac, what's up?
Hey, buddy.
Hey, Monty, what's up?
And it's a pleasure to have you here.
Well, I really appreciate that Monty finally talked to you to let me on. But for real, I think you guys have done a really interesting and cool podcast with your own direction, this kind of literary neo-noir sensibility. I'm really into it. Monty knows I always tell him how great it is. So I'm really glad to be here, and I think it's really cool.
Yes, well, we're happy to have you on and returning the favor after you had Monty on your show to talk about it was an anime, and I'm just not well versed in this field.
Monty, tell them what we did.
Sure. Yeah. So really proud of this. Jin has been so kind to have me on his show for a series where we're talking about esoterica in anime. To date, the one that we have published right now is D. Gray Man, which is a really cool series that it's more than you would expect out of like a silly little like Japanese cartoon. It's a really impressive series. And coming soon, very exciting one is we talk Bleach.
That is one
24.
that I have heard of. Perfect. Yeah. So go listen to that. That's Threshold Saints. That's available everywhere fine podcasts are sold. And I'll let you both know that I did dutifully listen to that first episode, the first collab, and I did not understand a lick of it, but I did show my support. But today we're here to talk about a different property, one that I'm actually familiar with, have dipped a toe into the pool a little bit. Jin, why don't you introduce the subject of today's episode?
Well, I thought that so how the genesis of this conversation really was that I was given homework to choose a series that the three of us could do, or a series or a film property or something in that media vein. So I saw that you had liked a Wicked City GIF that I posted. This is one of my favorite animes by one of my favorite anime studios. And it also happens to be a very cult, but also very famous in Asia film from 1992, a Hong Kong film it's the same, we'll say it's the same universe. So I thought, well, that's really interesting because it combines multiple areas of what your show and my show does. So I thought, it has the anime has the neo-noir elements. It has this kind of city pop 1980s flavor. And then the Hong Kong film has this, I would say, like neo-wuxia, crazy Hong Kong new wave, pretty magical in some ways, pretty esoteric, but I won't go heavy on that, but it is interesting to note, and it has a major cast. So that's pretty much what I think we'll discuss is Wicked City and its two incarnations.
So yeah, there's the animated film from 1987, and then, like you said, a live action adaptation from 1992. But these they're from the same. There's a manga as well, right? That's the source material.
Yeah, it's a
so
light
to
novel
speak?
series. There's 3 books.
Cool. Okay, and you said that it's not an adaptation of the same arc of the story, is it? It just takes place in the same universe.
I would say it. I would say that the film probably is based on a general timeline of the anime, but it's not one to one. There are major differences, and definitely the Chinese fatalism bleeds through a lot more in the film, and whereas the anime has more of a romantic ending.
Interesting. Okay, so what was your first introduction to Wicked City? What's your history with this series?
So I am a little older than Monty. I don't know how old you are, Mac, but I'm like 5 years older. So I'm Asian, so I was really into anime all my life. Like it's pretty much been part of my life since I was like a really young kid. So I obviously everybody's watched Ninja Scroll. This is from the same studio. It's Madhouse. It's like it's really one of the mythical anime studios of all anime history, really.
Yeah, they're the ones who were gonna do the remaster of One Piece. Yeah, I mean these guys have been around forever.
Yeah, Vampire Hunter D. I mean, and a series that Monty and I are going to do. I'll just say it, Monty. I'll preview it on your show. We're doing Free Ren, and so they also animated that. So I think that's really interesting that it ties back into another work that is phenomenal. But my introduction to it was definitely through, I think probably Ninja Scroll. I looked up who did Ninja Scroll, and then I was hooked. And then I was like, and I really love Vampire Hunter D as well, and the light novels. So for Mac, that's probably not meaty enough, like for the kind of books I know you like. But in the early 90s or the mid 90s, light novels were not easily found. Like you could not go buy them easily. It was a comic book store or a specialized Japanese import store, and to find English versions is pretty rare. Sometimes they would be in Chinese, and so all my cousins would buy them. We would all swap them. My Chinese is not great, as Monty knows, but it's serviceable. I can read a little. So yeah, it was like the whole exposure to this whole other sort of universe where the character, that it could be really dark. And I think that's what I like about the sort of Madhouse production universe, is that a lot of their things are body horror. So it has the Cronenberg element, but I was never really into that as a kid. I was definitely more into magic, supernatural. So it gives me that as well. It's not just overt horror. It's like it's like a little bit of everything.
Right. And how old were you around when you picked this one up?
So if it came out in 1987, I was not born yet, but it was probably in the early 2000s. Let's say
cool.
Maybe a little earlier.
So like tween kind of era.
I was like a tween, definitely tween.
Yeah. I came to this much later. I mean, I haven't paid my dues to be included in Weeb Chat yet, so I'm still kind of finding my way with this stuff. But there was an Agitator episode about Wicked City that I listened to, and they really made it sound like something that was up my alley, and it was, at least at the time, free to stream on Tubi. So I watched it with my Australian, because we always get into weird animated movies because they like to draw, and I was initially disturbed, but then just kind of taken with the whole like world of it. And there are a lot of elements of the story that I was really really interested in, and I ended up really enjoying it, even though it's been a couple years since I watched it. And Monty, how about you? You said that you've seen this roughly 700 times, right?
Yeah, basically. I've detailed before on the show. I used to watch like a lot of anime when I was younger. and you can't just watch like 400 episodes of One Piece in one sitting. Like you have to break it up with something.
Right.
And so this was one that was always like on top 10 lists, and I finally got around to watching it, and it was just like, again, it was just mind control for like the, like, of course I'm like this now. But yeah, it's a sick movie. When I was in college, this was my like I'm cool because I know about this movie type thing that I'd force all my stoned friends to watch.
Mhm.
And I don't know. I think that this is a it's Blade Runner meets like Twilight or something. And it is like it's a tight 90 minutes. I think this is a serious contender for a perfect movie.
Interesting. Yes, I actually tried. I attempted to rewatch it today. I was hanging out with my girlfriend on Discord and I said, "Hey babe, do you want to watch a movie that I have to watch for the podcast?" And she said, "Yes, okay." And I think we got about 8 minutes in. And then there's a sex scene with a spider lady with a vagina that has a mouth. And she
The
said,
perfect
"Can
woman
we?"
does exist.
Right. And then, a minute and a half after that, we were watching Wayne's World instead. So, um, Jin, do you want to give us maybe a quick rundown of kind of like the plot and the themes of Wicked City as you would explain them?
Okay, so I will do my best here. So it really it's set in this kind of universe that maybe and Monty obviously jump in if you want. That was sort of happening in anime. So there's this sort of expanded universe. It's like there's a clamp series called Tokyo X, Tokyo Babylon. There's also the Final War, which is a series that if people are familiar with Street Fighter, M. Bison, sometimes I post the character, but he's based on that character from that manga series and a live action film and anime. So there's all these kind of movies about a section of Tokyo basically being swallowed by a hellmouth. And the demons come out, and then the variation between the animes or the light novels is basically who the characters are and what they do to sort of seal that area. So, or how humanity sort of copes with this new demonic invasion. So that's basically I would say, broad plot is that he
That's
is a
okay.
salaryman and he works at the telephone company, but that's like obviously a weird, it's like he's an everyman. He's a Philip K. Dick character kind of, but he has psychic powers and he works for an organization called the Black Guard, who guard the boundaries between the Hellmouth and sort of the human world. And he's assigned to protect this little Italian man. So Monty, you'll feel seen, who is a very powerful psychic, and he's assigned a partner Makie, who is from the demon world. And so they basically have to guard this guy for 24 hours while peace is brokered and a treaty. This is what they're told: is a treaty must be signed between the two worlds. And this is the guy to do it. So after that, it's basically hijinks.
Yeah, I remember being pleased with how the world kind of unfolds in that way, because you're introduced to the world kind of as it is for us. He's like drinking in a bar and takes this girl home and they sleep together and she turns into some sort of spider demon, and he doesn't seem too perturbed by that. And it's like, I don't know, the
Oh,
way
he
that
knows before she even turns. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, this is
Yeah.
a demon.
Yeah. So the way that it kind of lowers you into that, I found really really engaging, and it really kept me kind of in that world the whole time, even with each new surprise.
Well, and I will just say that the Japanese Spider Woman is a trope, and Monty will also be familiar with It's a very familiar folklore trope, but it's all very common in anime, especially 90s horror anime, where it's kind of it's a femme fatale, but it is the folklore version. And the spider in Asian cultures, both Chinese and Japanese, usually represents wisdom. So there is this kind of element of a spy or spycraft, someone who knows things that they shouldn't know or hears things that they shouldn't hear. So the pairing instantly is interesting because he is a cop, and he is, well, a kind of a cop. And yeah, so I think you're right, Mac. I think that you see them together, it's very captivating. It's obviously grotesque, but not, I'm not personally grossed out, but maybe my tolerance is high.
Mhm. No, I think that you're right, because I've when I was kind of reading up a little bit, trying to refresh for this episode, I kept seeing it included on like lists of most disturbing animes and stuff like that, or the 1987 version, I should say. And I didn't really get that. I mean, I guess it's yucky in parts, I will concede, but in terms of like being disturbed, I didn't really get hit by that much. What about you guys?
So basically, I the thing I really like about this movie is that it's like all killer, no filler. It's like there's not a single second of like wasted energy on screen. And like with like the peaks and valleys of the movie, or like the action fights obviously are like the peaks, and like the valleys are still sex scenes. So like they're great. But it's just I just love like the attention to detail of like the Jack Daniels bottle, of like the when he's like undoing his he's like reloading his pistol, and like the names on the bullets come out. Um I think what a lot of people get wrong about like the disturbing nature of this is that like it's both like incredibly like polished and stylized, and like it's like classic cool, but also like the same is done with like the horror, quote unquote, of it. Yeah, it is scary, it is creepy, it is like, especially when like the tentacle guy has them wrapped up, and it's like this very like wet snake striking.
Mhm.
It These are the things about like this is what like accentuates especially in 2D form, like the giallo of it all. Like this is like this is some of the most effective parts of the movie. And if you think that it's disturbing, I get it, but it's really just like imminent danger. And I don't know. I don't think that this is a scary movie. I don't think anyone has ever gotten nightmares from this. Uh, but like it's just so slick and like sheen.
So Monty, I thought that was really interesting that you said giallo, because I actually wrote that down as well, and I wrote
Ha.
acid giallo, because I think that that is a vibe. I think that there is that element of like they are the nighttime cowboys in a way, and that is it's very buddy cop, and some, even though in the anime he doesn't have a male partner, there is a buddy cop element which was very popular in Japan at that time. And even my PFP is from a Japanese 1980s buddy cop series called Denka Otaka, which means it's literally like a buddy cop. It's like a pun on that. So I just
Japanese are bros. They get it. They know what's cool.
100%. And I think this is a perfect anime in my opinion too. I think super stylized. That's exactly how anime should be. Quick cuts. It should be super visual, and it should be a little psychedelic.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it hits those marks for sure. So is that what kind of sets it apart from others, like in kind of the overall genre? You said that it contains a lot of tropes of other animes, right? What is it exactly that kind of sets it apart and makes it so special?
I think for me, I love the female characters because I think they show very interesting powers. It's not just the typical psychic powers or magical girl transformations, and it isn't just superpowers. Like I know people have compared this to Yu Yu Hakusho, a series which is very near and dear to my own heart, but it isn't really like that, because the powers are not. It's not explained. It's just psychic powers are psychic powers, and obviously certain characters will have a way of engaging with that, but it's not it's not a prime focus. So I love that the female characters are seen as strong and soft at the same time. And then there's this element of sexuality with all the female demons. And I think that is very captivating because it is set in this kind of masculine sort of nightclub, Miami Vice underworld.
Mhm.
So I think for me, that's what it really is. It's the setting. It's the sort of like the Enka city pop music. It is and I love the vibe of it. It feels cyberpunk, but it's not a cyberpunk movie. I would not say.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It contains a lot of elements of other stuff, like you said, the buddy cop thing, almost like a police procedural in points. And they, near the end, they really crank up the Japanesiness of the whole thing. So.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is about this entire movie is that it is so like it's so simple. It's like man of God and like the court's demon woman, the marriage of heaven and hell, and then like they have to go and save the world, and like broker this peace treaty. It's so simple, but how sleek, how like efficient it is with time. There are tons of like really hyper stylized and really cool like Japanese movies out there, like OVAs, that are like again like do a very similar thing. But I just think that this is like the best example of like all killer no thriller, or no filler rather. I just think that this is like it's so perfect in the sense of, yeah, I don't need to learn their power system. I don't need to know the stakes here. Like I mean, even like the gratuitous like rape scenes are just there to like really go and like set the stakes almost. Like, yeah, everyone you're dealing with is like bad people. And like we're checking all the boxes to make sure you know who the bad guys are. And I think it's just like it's like a perfect 80s movie.
And only, I think, like 82 minutes, I think. They keep it real lean, which I appreciate as someone with a damaged,
Yeah.
what are they called?
Pension span.
There you go. That's what it is. I got lost on the way there.
Trailed off. Take your meds.
Jin, you mentioned, I think you said Chinese defeatism or fatalism, maybe. That's how you
Fatalism.
phrase it. Chinese fatalism.
Yeah.
So how does that come into play here, and what is that also?
So this is an old, and Monty will again also know, and we've actually even discussed this on a different episode. But a Chinese fatalism is a literary trope that is very, very common in basically all genres of Chinese literature, where it is seen as sort of, so there's this idea in Taoism of like it's like the divine right to rule for kings, but apply it to the everyman or the every person. So the Water Margin novel is a perfect example of this, as all the characters in the book, the anti-heroes, who are really the heroes, they are all named after what is called evil stars. So the evil stars are basically not evil, but they rule chaotic things in the heavens. So if you have their name, you then sort of embody their characteristics well on earth. So there's this idea that you cannot escape your fate. That's basically a very Chinese idea. Now this, because it's Japanese anime, it does not need to do that. Whereas the film version, definitely falls into that trap. The anime actually feels much more hopeful. It feels much more of that Japanese bubble economy that was happening. Like everyone is rich, everybody's making money. Okay, we can put a lot of money into anime and we're gonna make it like cool as fuck. Like just and like Monty said, it's a perfect construction of time. It's not there's no moment wasted. So, and I think that you see that a lot with Hong Kong films of the same era. Is that it's so much quick cuts. It's fast paced. It's stylistic editing, and I think it's because people had a optimistic outlook on life at that moment.
Yeah, again, I'm speaking from maybe an uneducated place. The only Hong Kong movie that I can think of that I've seen have been, I guess, the Wong Kar-wai movies. I think some of them were produced in Hong Kong, but also just Police Story, the Jackie Chan vehicle, which does fucking rock. And we got to do a Jackie Chan episode at one point on this show. But yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know about that I didn't know about the Chinese like that. I guess is what I mean to say. So yeah, you said the story is basically about them. The overarching plot is about them trying to broker peace, kind of between like the human world and demon world, or there's like a boundary line between them, and then hijinks. So can you tell us how that shakes out in the plot of the movie? And we'll just broad spoiler warnings here because just just pause now, watch the movie, and then come back. And
Yeah,
now,
I agree
Jin.
with that. Spoiler alert. So basically, the Italian psychic who speaks perfect Japanese and also looks Japanese because it's anime physics, right?
Yo,
Right.
Japanese narcissism is crazy. They expect like all foreigners to learn their language perfectly. They're nuts.
I agree. This is a whole other rabbit hole, but it's interesting. But he's a pervy sage. Basically, if you want to use an anime trope, that's what he is. He's a pervy, short little sage who wears a tracksuit, sort of
Gets
like
active.
yeah, exactly. And so he basically wants to go to a bubble parlor. I know they translated it a little different in the subs, but that's really what it is. It's a bubble parlor. So
Wait, can you explain what that is? What is a bubble parlor?
Brother.
Monty, you gotta explain.
And like, yeah, you get a prostitute to like rub you with soap and and you fucking an inflatable mattress. It's fucking insane.
Yeah, basically that's what it is. So he wants to
Bubble
go to
parlor.
one of these full service places with beautiful women, and he is looking through a catalog, and they're at this very cool underground hotel that has a spiritual barrier, like a kekai is what they would call it. And it's in this particular place in Tokyo, there's like a sacred location. So the spiritual energy is very dense. So they basically take him there to guard him for 24 hours, and he is supposed to stay there. Now, Maki's ex-lover, Jin, surprisingly.
The rapist, not the ninja.
Exactly.
You could always change your Twitter handle though.
Well, I don't know about that, but he breaks in, and the master escapes. So then they have to go after him and figure out where he is. So basically they do that. They find him at this bubble parlor, and he's being half consumed by this demon's, I would call it a stomach vagina, maybe.
Mhm.
And so
Oh
he's
yeah.
being half consumed. And so his spiritual energy is drained. So then after a battle scene, they realize they have to take him for emergency spiritual treatment at this. I guess it is kind of like in a separate dimension a little bit, like it's another universe but it is also like it's outside of Tokyo, because Taki says, if anywhere, no matter how fast I drive, it will take me 1 hour to get there. So implying that it is kind of a spiritual destination, and this is kind of like part of the challenge of getting there. So it's like being spirited away, kind of.
Mhm.
So they basically go do that. He undergoes spiritual treatment. On the way, Maki gets in a spiritual battle with another demon, and she is captured, and we don't know her fate right away. But while they are at the hospital, the demon sends a voice, and he says, "Do you want to save Maki?" And he shows Taki, Maki, if you want to, he shows Taki a image, a vision of what Maki is going through. So it's basically raped by demons or raped by goblins. I'm not quite sure how to describe what we saw.
Goblins
But
is more on brand, yeah.
yeah, they feel like that is. You're right, Monty. So basically that's what happens, and then he leaves the psychic and goes to save him, and it's just fast paced, like bloody, crazy body horror fight scenes, and then there's a tentacle guy, there's a tentacle rape scene, there's the Spider Woman comes back, there's a girl with very interesting powers with heart earrings. Who has like an all-consuming vagina. Again, you see this, it's a lot of fluids. It's a lot of fluids. And the whole thing, and not just female, there seems to be like this yeah, there's a psychosexual element to the whole thing. It's just it's how you take it. So if you're like a weeb, I think you're more immune to those elements because you're so used to it. It's so gratuitous anyway.
Or if you just watched a lot of Nickelodeon in the late 90s, early 2000s, and you're used to a lot of goop, then maybe that's because I'm realizing as you're explaining all of the stuff that happens in the movie, it should be something that I was very yucked by. And I didn't get that. I was along for the ride the entire time. And I know we all like the movie, so it's easy to just say, I liked it. But so I don't want to just heap praise on it because it's obviously we're all fans. But in retrospect, I'm surprised by the fact that I was not grossed out at any point.
Yeah, it's gratuitous. I mean, even hearing that description again, you kind of forget like just how insane balls to the wall it gets. Which is like so much to its credit of just like, yeah, it's gross, it's stupid, it's like whatever, but it's like our hero goes and punches a guy in the face and like his head explodes, but it's like the coolest shit I've ever seen.
Right.
Like it's so easy for that to be like a practical effect, like dud, and just like completely take you out of the movie.
I was way more invested in the fight sequences than I expected to be too. Like there's actual, like it feels like there's real stakes and there's real like, I don't know, action to them. Anyway, Jen, I didn't mean to interrupt your dictation of the plot because I remember the last 20 or so minutes of the movie. There's a lot of yes anding, and they really dial it up for the climax there.
So basically, he rescues her. We don't know quite how, but they wake up. I guess it is a church, but I didn't really know that if I'm just watching it for the first time per se. And so but then they make love. It's very Fifth Element, right? Like they make love in the med bed. And so that's what happens. And then the psychic comes back and he says, he kind of lays it out. So spoiler alert, he says, I was really meant to guard you guys. And Makie is pregnant with your baby. And your spiritual power and her spiritual power combined is going to, like, that is the contract. That is the treaty, is they forged a new peace in synthesis through the demon world and the human world. And so then the primary demon attacks, or no, that's not quite what happens. Demon, yes, that's actually true. So he sees the Mary statue wriggling, I guess you could say is the best word, and tentacles burst out, and the old man says, I'm actually a really powerful psychic. Well, he doesn't really say it, but there's an implication. And then he starts like charging with Vajra or lightning energy, and then they take the fight to the roof. Eventually Taki joins him. It's a crazy battle. They strike him with lightning 1,000,000 times. He doesn't die. He keeps trying to regenerate. And then Makie appears as kind of an angel, maybe a angel of death, but she appears at the top of the bell tower and she flies down and she basically puts an end to it. And she uses a physical attack, but it's interesting because it's not just a physical attack. It's that her physical attack has a spiritual value. So that's how I interpret it anyway.
Plus 10 holy damage.
Yeah, exactly. Monty gets it because you have to disintegrate them into like either, so they're all absorbed into the world.
So Jen, I know that you post a lot about kind of a sort of a unique belief system. I think is it Tantric Buddhism is that's what you practice or what you study, correct?
Yeah, I'm a Tantric Buddhist, so I do post about that, and also any pretty much all metaphysics. Western was never my flavor, so I found a home in like Vajrayana or Tantric Buddhism, so that's where I'm the most comfortable. But I do try and use popular culture, anime specifically. There are better animes than others, but I try and use all of those to encapsulate the same ideas without always using Tibetan iconography or Kabbalistic iconography. I try and relay the same ideas using popular culture.
Well, you're reclaiming the word Naga, So shout out
Yes,
to
I
you.
have. I have been doing that.
Which, despite some other maybe phonetic relations, that it means snake, right? Is that what Naga is?
It's a snake person. It's like a
Snake
dragon person. It's like but it can refer to something that's a dragon or a snake. It's a kind of a nebulous term. That's why I like it. And
Mhm.
just like they're kind of a marginal nebulous species that are not, they're neither good nor bad. They can choose just like humans can choose. So I don't know. I just, the metaphor, it makes sense, and it is kind of funny phonetically.
And they choose to wear little hats. So we all know how to feel about them.
Mhm. They talk really loud in the movie theater. Um, so I guess my question was, Jin, is does this movie tickle any of those tantric Buddhist like parts of your brain? Like, are there any parts of this movie that kind of you can apply that knowledge to and view in with that lens?
Sure. I mean, all Japanese movies have characteristics of at least a popular imagination of Onmyoto, which is kind of the syncretic Shinto Buddhist magic of the 10th and 11th century, and which is basically, it's Japanified Taoism. That's not a perfect explanation, but it encapsulates pretty much what it is. It's astrology, it's spiritual sciences, meaning how to deal with spirits, how to deal with ghosts, that kind of thing. So there's an overarching element in a lot of anime, at least, of this real thing, of something that really exists, like a real wisdom science. So in this movie in particular, like I said, with the psychic, he kind of empowers himself with electricity. It's a specific color. Monty will know this because we discussed it several times. And turquoise is a really important color because that is like the pristine mind, or like the Buddha mind, if you want to call it that, or Vajra. People might be familiar with that word. It also means adamantine. So like X-Men and Wolverine's claws, those are adamantine. So that comes right out of Tantric Buddhism. But the other thing I thought was really interesting from my perspective was in that not the last fight scene, but the second to last fight scene with the girl with the heart earrings. That's actually a city, so a magical power that you can derive from practicing Buddhism. We don't aim for magical powers, but sometimes it's considered a byproduct of your practice. I know that's quite woo, but anyways, that is sort of the reality. But when she does that, that's a power called Mohini. So it's specifically made exactly like what you saw: entrancement, stunning. Like, he's stunned, Taki is stunned, he's seeing this like giant juicy vagina in front of him, and he's mesmerized. That, I mean, that's a real, what she's doing in this sort of hypnosis, that is considered to be like a real power. So I think that's also really interesting. But I think even the idea of spiritual powers derives from this kind of mysticism. But I also think that the Japanese, I don't want to say secularized it, because I think that that's actually not a good way to characterize Japan, as like non-religious and secular, because I don't think that that's necessarily true. But I think they do think in religion in a different way, and the spiritual powers don't necessarily need to exist within a cosmology. So I think that's what this film is. It's the spiritual powers exist. We know heaven and hell exist in some formation, but it's not, nothing is quite dependent on it, on the belief system.
Well, I mean, especially in the window dressing, that the Japanese love using. I mean, keep in mind, in Japan, if you were caught as being a Christian, you were crucified. So, like, these people like do have like an intimate association with Jesus Christ, and there's no, it's no coincidence that they get transported when they're conceiving their child into a church in front of a Virgin Mary, and
No.
I think that it's yes, in kind of like a ham-fisted way of like they understand the iconography and the symbology of like theological views. But yeah, I mean, it's like I kind of really always liked and appreciated the Japanese sensibilities for like, yeah, hell is bad guys and heaven is good guys. Because keep in mind, it's also like the cards are so stacked against you. Like mere like mortal humans, if you were to go and take the worldview that human beings are monkeys, then like with like no with no real value, then there's no reason why the demons shouldn't like serrate them like calves at every opportunity. They have to be imbibed in some kind of spirit and have some kind of holy protection surrounding them, because that is the virtue of being human.
That's a really good point, Monty. And I'm glad you said that, because I think what this movie does successfully is it doesn't paint humanity as weaker than demons per se.
Yeah.
It gives humans, it gives man at least a fighting chance. And Taki is explained to be several times to have tremendous spiritual power. So I think that you're right. And I think that the lovemaking in front of on the altar in front of the Virgin Mary, and they have to be in love, right? Like that is specifically said, they cannot conceive if they do not have spiritual love. So I think that's also very interesting.
Well, it's the old you can't get pregnant unless you come defense.
Yeah, if a baby is born without the mother's orgasm, it's born without a soul.
There you go. But just kind of going back to what you're saying about the woman with the earrings, I think this is like also another really cool allusion to kind of like how this is something that I'm really interested in when it comes to like fashion photography, of like using like seducing through like the camera's eyes and like having something hidden, like having a hand behind your back or something. A lot of that is like tied up with like these thoughts and these implications of like torture or like capturement, but really it's like almost as if they're hiding like a shank or something. So like Helmut Newton's a great example of someone who like truly understands the like the Gorgon's gaze. Like, yes, she's so stunningly beautiful, and like you are like it has like stopping power, where you're like turned to stone for a split second, just enough time for her to go and take her like the chopsticks out of her bun to go and stab you in the neck. And it is this kind of like yes, like to be a romantic in like Neo Yokio is to flirt with danger at every turn.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. And this is a very fashion photography anime,
Mhm.
I feel like. And even when she goes and breaks into the shop for the dress, it's so peak 80s Japan. Like you could look
Oh
up
yeah.
Tokyo Fashion 1987 and you would find that image. And she works as a fashion model. So you have all these allusions to, yeah, exactly like what I said, like the bubble economy, this kind of like economy where people can just be a fashion model part-time and live in Tokyo, and everything is great and fight demons at night.
Oh, Miss Congeniality. What a woman.
Yeah, the bubble parlor economy. Yeah, you got it. So you watched I mean, you're familiar with the entire suite, it sounds like, Jin. So you said that the live action adaptation is more romantic and doesn't have that fatalism attached to it as much, right? What are the big differences between the animated version and then the live action one from 5 years later?
So the live action version uses the anime as a template, I would say. Like it maps itself onto it, but it doesn't necessarily, which is very Hong Kong cinema of the 90s, it doesn't fulfill the promise of the original, meaning not that it's not good. I think it's really good, but I think it doesn't your expectations have to be different. You're going into a different property almost, but it's of the same story. So it's a Sui Hark, extremely faint. Like he's considered one of the big three Hong Kong directors, and he's a wuxia specialist. So basically, what it is, it's sword fighting and martial arts. But it takes place in a kind of Chinese science fiction landscape, and a lot of people say, "Oh, China doesn't really have science fiction. China doesn't really need science fiction because we have they have wuxia." So it takes place in an alternate dimension. That's basically the idea, is that there's this secret society. It's called Jianghu, Rivers and Lakes. So it exists beside us, like the reflection on a lake. It's there, but it's not there. It's not graspable. So it exists, and then in these ideas, it's kind of a superhero thing. There's kind of like this: you're Clark Kent by day, and then a Superman by night, but you're not really Superman. You're kind of a amoral hero. So, and then you also have these John Woo sort of overtures to heroic bloodshed. Obviously, this comes in '92, so it's a little later than John Woo's grand oeuvre, but I still think it's part of it. It's still like very city on fire. So you've got these two cops, very buddy cop again, and they have Michelle Reyes. And if people aren't familiar with Hong Kong celebrities or Hong Kong cinema, you will probably recognize her as well as the two leads. So they're just the mega stars of Hong Kong, and they still are very famous, like instantly recognizable, still discussed in all the tabloids. So Michelle Reyes basically plays Makie, but her name is transliterated to Windy, and that is her character's. It's like Feng Hua or something like that, like Phoenix, I think. And anyway, so they fulfill a similar story where the demons are trying to invade the human world using this drug called happiness. And so as these two nighttime cops that work for the Black Guard, they have to team with these kind of demonic reptars. That's what they call it. It's very cheesy in Cantonese, but it's also cool in the movie. Like, don't let my explanation scare you away. It's still a cool movie. It does have these very colloquial elements that Chinese, especially a Cantonese speaking audience, will really love. So they basically have to chase down the son of this Japanese, I guess he's like a Yakuza or a triad, and his son is the one producing the drugs, basically. So they have to go and basically kill the son. So that's really what the overarching story is of the film. But then there are these complications, and just like in the anime, there's complications to what has to happen and who is with who, because Windy used to be with Taki in the live action film, so they have a complicated relationship, and Chinese love a melodrama. Monty can speak to this as well. They love a romance, and they love a melodrama, but they don't necessarily love a cheese romance. They love a complicated romance, and they really love a corrupted woman, especially in Hong Kong cinema of the late 80s and 90s, the whole 90s. You will see this trope a lot. The hooker, the drug addict, these kind of very flawed female characters, but they're always redeemable by the male character.
Yeah, Captain Save-A-Ho.
Yeah,
It
even
is,
just
really.
my limited experience with like Hong Kong movies, like the Wong Kar-wai stuff, he is really embroiled in that for sure. Like Fallen Angels was like that. In the Mood for Love, kind of the similar thing, where it's just
100%.
like just endless yearning with there's no nut bust of romance.
That's
at the
right.
end.
That's right.
And Happy Together is another really good one. That it's about two insane gay guys and their tumultuous relationship. And it's very good. Even though historically I've been homophobic on the show towards Monty, I would recommend that movie. But yeah,
I actually
sorry,
really
go
love
ahead.
all of those. I love Wong Kar-wai. I'm a Chungking Express just because I obviously was a kid in the late 90s, and Faye Wong, it just is so. It's like she's such an
perfect.
icon, and right, and she did transition between Mandarin language and Cantonese very seamlessly.
I was so worried for how the end of that sentence was going to turn out when you said she
Yeah, seriously. Whoa.
Her Chinese cover of I think Dreams by the Cranberries is really good too.
Yeah, phenomenal. One of my favorites, to be honest.
Anyway, sorry, continue. We got derailed there, but I with my limited knowledge of Hong Kong filmmaking, I can recognize that this is the shit that they like over there.
I don't think you have a limited knowledge, Mac, at all. I think that Wong Kar-wai is a perfect encapsulation of that style, of that new wave Hong Kong style of the early and mid 90s. Interestingly enough, Michelle Reyes, the main actress, Windy, she grew up in Chungking mansions. And you see this a lot with especially Cantonese actresses of this era, 80s and 90s. They will come from very humble beginnings, and now Michelle Reyes is married to a billionaire. And a lot of them are like that. And if you read into the stories and how interconnected they all are and how complicated it is and what triad owns the production studio that they did all these films for, there's a really interesting, I don't want to call it parapolitical, but there is something interesting about the network behind Hong Kong cinema and behind the funding of it, especially at its peak, especially like when this film came out. This was like the art house time. The triads wanted to fund these weird avant-garde new wave Hong Kong films, and they wanted to win awards. And that was considered to be very prestigious, even more prestigious than making money, because a lot of the films were made to launder money. So they didn't necessarily have to make money.
Yeah, the original Quavo was Chinese triads.
It would, I mean, for real.
Yeah. It's well, and the thing is too is that I think that a huge part of this, and especially like the relationship that that the Cantonese and like just the Chinese in general is like they've had kind of like, to call it feminism is the wrong word, but they've had like a very like reciprocal relationship with women their entire like basically their entire history. How they're like in charge of household production just as much as the men are. And I think that a lot of the acknowledging the realities of like the lives that women have to lead and really shining like a light on that. Now, in the West, we're doing so in a really gratuitous and disgusting way. But I think that like Easterners have a respect for women that far extends just like the superficial like rape culture or anything, but just really like having a sensibility of like being around women more. I think is like a really interesting angle that like Eastern films have. Like a woman does have a past, like period. And
Period.
but not in like a Taylor Swift way, but like in a just like, yes, like this woman has been alive for 26 years and like she's been living for 26 years type deal.
Yeah, I think that that's a really great point, Monty, because I think that you cannot really divorce this period of Cantonese cinema, Hong Kong cinema, from both the Chungking mansions, which were a public, it's like a public apartment, and then also the Kowloon mansion, which was like a city block or several city blocks run by the triad that was demolished in 1988. So you have a kind of embedded geography as well as cultural touchstones in every Cantonese movie of the era. And also they open up by talking about handover. So immediately, as someone who is from the diaspora, you immediately know, okay, this is a Hong Kong film made in, I guess, anxiety, intention of the handover. And a lot of Hong Kong films, especially of this time, are thematically captured by the handover back to China in 1997. So this is kind of I guess the horror elements of the film are really about, I would say, about that. It's really about this kind of demonic invasion, although interestingly, they're never quite called demons. They're just spirits sort of in the other world who aren't exactly like us.
Need to be exercised.
Right.
That's
I
right.
mean, it's similar to how you said the humans aren't thought of as like weaker or lesser. I guess neither are the demons considered, more evil or necessarily more powerful. There's kind of if you'll forgive the term, there's an equality there. They see eye to eye in a way that you wouldn't normally expect in a movie or a series like this. Like the fact that there's diplomatic relations between the bad guys and the good guys, something you don't even see, between human groups all the time.
I think it was really important coming from the 80s and having like all those heroic bloodshed movies like John Woo, but he was not the only one. You have Johnny To. You have, there's a lot. So you have these movies that really forefront the everyman, but they are not just the everyman. They are like a superhero inside. Like they may not even be in shape. Like like
your own waiting.
That's right. They're waiting for their time and their moment, and like their kind of alignment. Like to go back to the point about fatalism, they're waiting for the stars to align, and then they will take action in that moment. That's a very Chinese way of thinking.
Interesting. And you said that this one was more romantic, but you did say also that the Chinese don't love that kind of schmaltzy romance. There's no like big swell of strings and the foot kicked
No,
out and the kiss at the end of the movie?
Cantonese love schmaltzy romance,
Oh,
and
they
so do
do.
theirs, as Monty knows. They love,
Yeah, it's
but
just got to have a love triangle to start the relationship.
yes,
Gotcha.
exactly. It's always about the complications of romance. It's never about it's like what you said, Mac. It's like
Messy
there's a
hoes.
it's a retentive element. So you never get to climax. It's always it's about the chase. It's about the game. It's about the little manipulations you do on each other. It's about your feelings, subtle feelings, getting hurt. Like you see Leon lie, and when he's talking to Wendy, you can tell his feelings are often hurt by her sort of coldness towards him. But then when they're in a fight, she'll be soft and she'll look at him, and she's very beautiful, Michelle Reyes, like very, very beautiful. And so she looks at him, and it's kind of like, oh yeah, okay, I melt, right? And so I think that's what Chinese people love, is they love the tension and they love those extended time moments, but they don't love, like, sex for Cantonese audiences, whatever. Like yeah, you can have a little bit, but it's never going to be as wild,
Hey, it's a
especially
one-child policy, and you got to make that count. It's you're not just gonna let any bozo like dump inside you. Like it's the restraint is a huge piece of this.
Yeah, the emotional climax is just like Denzel in Training Day with one glistening tear coming down the cheek, and they're just like, wow.
it's very restrained in a way.
So how does that romance express itself in the live action one as compared to the cartoon? Forgive me, I'm sorry. The cartoon version.
Well, well, I would say that it doesn't, because it ends in a fatalistic Chinese way. The girl walks away alone, and Taki's partner's passed away, and so there is no love triangle, because, and this is also another sort of component of Chinese fatalism, is sometimes all three characters, like it's usually two men and a woman. That's the formula for wuxia. So they will all die sometimes. And you see this, and there's a Michelle Yeoh movie called Butterfly Murders, and I think most of the characters die by the end, even after the boss fight.
So there's no knitting together of the two worlds through love in the live action one?
No, because I think it's really about, how can you knit together two fundamentally different worlds? I think Hong Kong is about money, it's about real estate, it's about gambling, because Macau's right over the ocean, and if you know the histories of the actresses, it's all about who they're dating, like what casino mogul's son they're dating. So I think that's it. Hong Kong has been likened to a casino economy, and I think they saw the Chinese model and Chinese ethnic mainland people as being like a foreigner who was coming in, invading their land, and not
Unwashed masses.
Yes, that's right. What Monty said, unwashed masses. And they were, in some ways, they were country bumpkins a little bit, mainlanders at that time. I'm not saying they are now. I'm just saying at that time, comparatively, Hong Kong people were very rich. It produced the most millionaires, I think, of any city other than perhaps New York. And it just has a high percentage of them. And so in even ones who weren't millionaires, if you owned an apartment, you were basically a paper millionaire. So I think in terms of, they felt rich compared to mainlanders. And so I think that there was this perception that, how can we marry our society with that of ghosts? And interestingly, ghosts in Chinese is often used to apply to foreigners, as Monty will know. And not just white people. It can also refer, there are some slang words in Cantonese that are used to refer to mainlanders as spirits or fairies or mountain fairies, because they they're not fully real. They're not fully in the public imaginary. Now that has changed, obviously. It's 2024. So that all the business has shifted to China, to Singapore, to Taiwan, and it's all interconnected. But I think at this time, they did not see the mainlanders as being cohesive in their society.
Well, they were spot on for immigrants stabbing you on the bus. So
I love every time
demons
you say,
do be stabbing.
I love every time you say, as Monty will know. I didn't realize how highly credentialed you were as like an emissary to the Orient. You're like a 3-star weeb. I had no idea.
Yeah, dog, talk to me nicely. Yeah, my shogunate mask is
Put some
coming.
respect on his name. Goddamn.
No, Monty.
Uh,
Monty is he's a very impressive young man, and no,
Oh,
I
I
no,
know. I just like to
but
get his goat. That's all.
I got
no,
my
I
shogun
totally
head.
get it. But it was really awesome to learn how much like Monty had exposure in China, because I'm not like, my family's not from mainland, so it is interesting because it brings two knowledges together that sort of fit a greater China piece of the puzzle.
Interesting. Okay, so
Glory be to the emperor.
so one more question I have is, it seems like, there's the kind of the fatalist approach and then the romantic approach, kind of the source material. What I want to know is the original manga series, which of these two approaches is more faithful to that? And then also which of the two do you think serves the story better, just personally?
Okay, well, I love the movie as a standalone, and I love the anime as a standalone, but I think that they are coherent as like a greater canon of the thing, as well as Demon City Shinjuku, which I mistakenly, in the beginning of the episode, mistakenly mixed up the plot. But I think that all those three form an arc of the same story, taken from slightly different perspectives, maybe different times. And I think they are both successful, but in different ways. Now, I think Sui Hark, because I'm a big Hong Kong action cinema fanboy, like as much as Monty is a weeb, I love Hong Kong new wave action cinema of the 90s and 80s. So for me, it succeeds because of I love the color saturation. I love the quick cuts. I find it it's kind of cheesy beautiful. It's very Chungking Express in some ways. It's sort of cyberpunk, but not, and it has that element of being very much of the geography, which I mentioned, because I think that's an important part of Hong Kong films. So there's a lot in it, maybe personally, that I get out of the live action. Now, in terms of the anime, I think this is A- high level. If you watch this, you can go beyond top 10 lists. Like, this is like the final boss of the top 10 list. So if you can pass this, then you are successfully a weeb, I think, because the body horror, that is so common. It doesn't necessarily take the same incarnation as in this film, but I think that you have to have at least a desensitization of it. And you also have to be desensitized to these concepts, like Monty said, about the sort of black and white forces, like the forces of heaven versus the forces of darkness. Like, this is a very common, especially shonen, but it transcends shonen, because even in more complex series, the gray is more about your choices in the moment rather than narrative choices that affect the plot in the long term. Morality is much more spontaneous, but your goal doesn't change. So what you're doing, what you're doing, but you're not necessarily sure how you're going to get there. So I think the anime is successful because it cuts, there's no filler. It just is, it's a hero's journey from A to Z. He's not the most conventional, but he's not unconventional either. He's certainly not an anti-hero. And he's also the everyman. So I think that's what I would say, is that I think it combines a lot of things that I really like and things that I think work together successfully.
Perfect. That's very well put, Jin. Thank you. I think that we have to get one of those thermometers that they use for like fundraisers and stuff. And then once I've put in my hours with the anime, then I get to join Weeb Chat when it reaches the top. This will be like we'll have to do like a training montage.
You have a long hill to climb, buddy.
Yeah. I'll get there someday. Well, Jin, thank you so much for your time this evening. Really enjoyed your perspective on Wicked City, something that I was already, a fan of, but it sounds like I have to do a little bit more research before I can, enter the fold here. So everybody go listen to Threshold Saints. Like I said, available wherever fine podcasts are sold. Do you have anything else coming down the pike here, Jin, anything else you're working on?
Sure. So I am also an occult reject, and I often weekly now podcast with Nick from Occult Rejects. If you're not
Great
familiar
show.
with that, it is a really cool show. I don't really do the parapolitics or conspiracy stuff, but I definitely bring my perspective doing occult decodes of things and historical texts. So that's sort of where Nick taps me. And if you're unfamiliar with that show, he was a 10-year member of the OTO, now retired. It's all different angles, and we approach it and we kind of come together and see what we do. So there's
Fucking
that.
magnets, how do they work?
Well, anyways, but no, so you can find me there, Threshold Saints, Twitter, Wukong Reborn, WUKONG Reborn. Yeah, Monty's episode, and it really is his episode. It will be episode 24. And it is on Bleach, and it will be really exciting. I'm really excited for it. It's already in the pipe. I just have to give it a little tweak and polish. And yeah, and then I have a Twyman series coming out tomorrow. And well, it'll be after this. Probably it will be before this airs.
Date of record. Date of record.
Date of record. Okay, so thank you, Monty. So yeah, Tracy Twyman, and you know, I'm gonna keep going with doing interesting series, and but I bring the metaphysics, and then, you know, sometimes we talk a little bit about pop culture too.
It's a bear market, but Jin is bullish. Bet on Jin stocks.
Yeah, that sounds very up the alley of who I assume our existing clientele is here. So please go listen to Jin shows. And Jin, as you are well aware, we like to end the show by asking our guest what's going on in your life that's nice right now.
Well, I will say my gardens look great, and I've got so much vegetables. It's like ridiculous. I'm really glad to have done this with you guys, and I'm a big fan of this show. I hope everybody subscribes and gives you only 5-star reviews, and yeah.
Well, so far so good. Jin, thank you so much again for your expertise and for including me in the conversation. And thank you all at home for listening. And above all, please remember to have a nice day.
祝你今天愉快。